So I just got back from the 2026 RBC Economic Forum, and here's some things that you need to know that impact us moving forward into 2026. So essentially what we are understanding from this is there is cautious optimism, right? There is a slow but positive GDP growth with inflation kind of trending toward 2% by the end of the year. And employment rates seem to have kind of stabilized. They've already hit their peak and they've seemed to have stabilized from there. While the initial fears of the widespread tariffs were very high, over 90% of Canadian goods to the US still remain tariff-free, which is great. So this mitigates a lot of economic impacts and supports a lot of Canadian activity. So despite weak consumer confidence, spending still remains quite resilient, and we anticipated, that mortgage cliff where renewals were coming up with people at ultra low rates and they were going to renew at 7% interest rates. Well, that's more of a hill. It's not really a cliff. And we're actually seeing only about just over 20 to 30% of mortgages actually renew at a much higher monthly payment. So that's good. It's not as fearful as what we once thought. Of course, the labor market, there is some weaknesses there. It is due to kind of slower hiring from what they're seeing as opposed to massive layoffs. The biggest numbers, obviously the youth market, they're having a hard time. It's kind of a job, trying to find a job for them. And then new to Canada, finding employment are also seeing issues. Speaking of new to Canada, the scaled back immigration targets will obviously slower population growth, impacting a lot of demand and creating kind of regional fragmentation. Obviously, the Toronto, the BC, Vancouver, those major cities, they're going to feel that the most because obviously immigration and new people to Canada helps that. A partial recovery for home resales is definitely expected. We are seeing kind of price growth stabilizing, right? And again, this is segmented and kind of be regional as well. But we're kind of seeing that affordability, the growth for affordability, it's kind of diminishing now. The peak has dropped, so houses came a lot more affordable. That's kind of nearing an end. We're not going to see any more real significant gains on affordability nationwide. So again, if you're looking at housing and thinking the market's going to crash next year, it's done. The biggest drops are there. If anything, we're going to see some ups and downs. We're going to see some peaks and then it might cool off again and prices might go up again and then drop. Obviously, condo markets, that is down significantly. And I don't see a recovery just yet for that market, whether you're in Toronto, Hamilton, Niagara, or out in BC. It's just kind of really fallen off a cliff there. Now, the interest rates, the Bank of Canada is expected to keep rates kind of on hold for the most part through 2026. There's even talks of a potential increase near the end of 2026. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the housing market because of the threat of an increase. Maybe that we see a busier spring to summer if there's fears of higher interest rates. Another thing, obviously, the CUSMA, which is the obviously our trade agreement, is up for renewal in 2026. People do think the deadline is July. It's actually not. If no agreement can come between Canada and the US and Mexico, it continues for another 10 years, right? So nothing really crazy there. So overall, we are seeing a gradual recovery, a slow, optimistic recovery. It's a far cry from the major decrease of things. We've also heard now that we are technically not in a recession either. Things are just progressing very slowly, but there is some growth, and that's why it feels like we're falling behind, because the growth that we're feeling is very, very slow. So what does this mean to you? I'm obviously in real estate. What's that mean for real estate? Well, in a nutshell, the major drops, the major gains over the last 10 years are done. We're kind of stabilized now. We are seeing things pick up again. I think people aren't as fearful as they were at the beginning of the year when the tariffs were announced. So people are looking at buying again and selling. We're seeing that with live data today. We're seeing November being a lot busier than usual compared to the slowdowns that we usually get at this time of year. So if you want to come up with a plan, again, I put these out there because I want you to have a good understanding of what's going on with with the economy and, of course, real estate in general, so you can be knowledgeable and not just read a headline and become fearful or get this fear of missing out mentality. So if you have any questions, if you want to sit down and dive deep, even if you just want to talk like this about what's coming down the pipeline, not ready to move, you can still reach out to me. We'll have that chat. We'll get you informed and become educated in the market. So reach out if you have